Hello?
Claudia.
No, I'm not...
Don't lie to me, Claudia. You're always trying to run from your responsibilities. Have you come to apologize? Or maybe you still don't realize how foolish you've been. The salvation of all mankind. Ah, what a ridiculous dream.
Wait, just listen to me for a second.
I've heard enough from you already. How did you turn out this way? Where did I go wrong?
Listen to me already. I'm not Claudia.
You're not Claudia.
My name is Heather.
Heather.
Who are you?
Leonard Wolf. I'm sorry. I thought you were my daughter.
Claudia is your daughter?
Oh, so you know her, do you? Are you one of her followers?
No, never. When I find her,
I can feel the hatred.
What?
Behind your words. The anger. You plan to kill her, don't you?
I'm sorry, but... She killed my father.
She's a fool. But she's still my daughter. I was going to forgive her if she changed her ways. But I see it's too late. Heather, will you help me?
Help you?
I'm locked up in here, and I must stop Claudia.
Where are you now?
I'm not sure myself, but the door is at the end of the hall on the second floor. I think I can be of help to you. I have a seal. Please.
A seal? The end of the hall on the second floor.
Greetings, I am Solidus-Skully and welcome back to Silent Hill 3. Now, this is pretty much where the hospital section of the game starts to become a little bit more interesting. I should probably turn that down a little bit because the music is very spooky and scary. I hope to God that the audio skipping that was in the last part doesn't happen this time. I can't make any promises because my video editor is very, very laggy and kind of infamous for skipping over bits and pieces of lines when they shouldn't. I don't know, I really gotta find a better way to record this, but in any case, I'll say that for later because we have quite a bit to talk about. And not something I can really talk about immediately, or at least mostly in regards to what's going on, because, yeah, more interesting stuff first and foremost. There is actually a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with Leonard, a bit of which I already dipped into with the whole Stanley Coleman thing. But, yeah, stuff I'm gonna have to talk about a little bit later. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean... I said last part that the nurses weren't really that scary, but they can surprise you, which, you know, in combination with the loud music, is always pretty effective. I mean, I guess it's sort of like an inverse jump scare, so to speak, in the sense that it's overwhelming rather than just something that goes outright boo with a large sudden burst of intensity. I mean, the way in which Silent Hill 3 handles its horror is very confrontational, as I mentioned earlier, but it does so in a way that overwhelms the player rather than, I guess, just gives them a simple jump scare and goes boo. Oh, by the way, here's another Session 9 reference coming up quite soon. And this one I actually think is intentional since, you know, mental hospital, Danvers Institution was where Session 9 was set. The way in which the lights are set up, and actually a certain set piece I will be getting to quite soon. Not quite here. Again, this maze really isn't as difficult to figure out as you might think. I mean, because the doors block off your progression and then they'll open up if, you know, if it's an area that you need to go to. I hate the fact that it is lagging right now. But in any case... yeah, this right here is... actually, no, it's a little bit further. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. So there you see, you won't be able to go there, but turn down this corridor, and soon you will find your path. There you go, and now... I hate the fact that it lags. Huh. Like, I mean, again, as I said, it's not as difficult to figure out as you might think. For goodness sake. I'm gonna... Okay, here's the Session 9 reference. Anyway, you guys watch the cutscene that's coming up next, and, I will hopefully figure out this fucking editor problem.
Still has an unusually high fever. Eyes don't open. Getting a pulse, but just barely breathing. Why? What is keeping that child alive?
Basically what you heard there was lines from Lisa Garland. In the Xbox and PC, and I think even the HD Collection versions, those lines were completely silent, and that also goes double for Harry Mason's lines earlier on, voiced by Michael G., including the little Cheryl snippet that you heard by Sandra Wayne. And the trivia behind that is, back in 2012 when the HD Collection was coming... Actually, no, it wasn't 2012, it was actually... I think it was like 2004 or something... Actually, no, 2003, I think, as well. Basically, Thessaly Lerner, the voice actress for Lisa Garland, was basically... I don't know if she was taking legal action or she was suing Team Silent or Konami or anything like that, but basically, because they were using her voice clips, she decided to take some legal action, and as a result of that, that basically ended up meaning that Michael G's clips, Sandra Wayne's and hers, had to be removed from Silent Hill 3. For the PC and Xbox versions. They're still in the PS2 version, although I don't know whether or not that has to be an early release of the PS2 version if they took it out later. But again, my point still stands is that, again, you can still hear the lines from Silent Hill 1 in the PS2 version of the game, and the fact that they took it out is, well, weird to say the least, but, you know, regardless of such, this was donkeys years ago, and a similar issue would come up in 2012 when the HD Collection came out. Just wanted to get that out of the way quickly so I could talk about this. Harry Mason's notes, which, again, you can read at any time in the game if you examine the notes, and... Jesus Christ, this honestly makes me tear up, and even if Harry Mason isn't seen physically in the game outside of his death, sweet crispy Jesus, reading this made me honestly tear up, because, like, especially, like, right here, well, actually a little bit later into the note, but... And you can see the turmoil that went on in this man's life for 17 years, like, right... I mean, again... If you know everything about what happened in Silent Hill 1, how he lost his daughter, pretty much everything that happened involving, you know, Cheryl, everything, and then, you know, you see in the aftermath, you know, you see how Heather had had such an impact on him, and how pretty much the events surrounding his life had been so affected by what happened in Silent Hill 1. Not to mention, like, this line right here. The fact that he was so tempted to just kill Heather... And honestly, the fact that he decided to keep her and raise her, and honestly, all of that just makes my heart fucking... This is... I really miss bonus material like that in video games, and honestly, it's kind of why I really miss having these sorts of survival horror games just out there so you can read all this stuff, and honestly, the fact that a text alone is enough to just get me all teared up... fuck... Again, I'm not making a lot of sense, but just... read that, and... honestly, it's just beautiful writing, I'll say that much. In any case, now we get to, well, basically the other world sequence, which I do think actually looks pretty cool, design-wise. I mean, it harkens back to a lot of Silent Hill 1's Blood and Rust sort of aesthetic, and I like it. And there's also the Vartiel here, who doesn't seem to be paying any attention to the fact that Heather's here. And of course, symbolism, because birth, pregnancy, all that good stuff. Well, I wouldn't really say all that good stuff, it actually seems quite painful. This, I actually think, does look very, very cool. I mean, it's very freaky, and it's also very disorienting as well. I mean, you can still find the rooms and where you need to go, you know, mostly thanks to the map, but even still, it's trippy stuff like this that I really wish, you know, would have been sort of maintained in some of the later Silent Hill games. I mean, again, not to say that some of the design elements were bad in the later sequels, but... I don't know, like, Silent Hill 3 really put a creative twist on the whole blood and rust thing just by having it distort your worldview. And to me, I think that's honestly what the other world should really do. I mean, I think Silent Hill Downpour actually had some pretty interesting aesthetics in and of itself, even if it was more on the abstract side of things rather than, you know, an outright, you know, freak you out, overwhelming horror sort of thing, you know? Oh, that's strange. This is also the part of the game where you encounter slurpers, and I can absolutely not stand them. So instead, we're gonna dart into the third floor storeroom. Hopefully that shall provide us some safety and comfort. Okay, I mean, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't show you that scare, but... I mean, again, it is sort of an infamous one, which I think kind of does dilute the horror a little bit, since I guess a lot of new people to Silent Hill are usually expecting that, but... Sweet crispy Jesus, that... Playing that for the first time, oh god, I didn't want to... It just freaked me out, man. Like, again, I know a lot of people probably expect this, because, you know, internet has probably kind of made this stuff sort of widespread, but again, having played Silent Hill 3... honestly kind of blind for the most part, you know, that was... It was utterly chilling to see that scene for the first time, like, pretty much unspoiled by pretty much any other game in the series. Or at least how I approached it. Oh, this is actually a very interesting place. If you remember before, with the happy birthday... Actually, no, we haven't encountered him yet, so I'll remain silent. Move over to number 7, and you'll hear some, pretty strange noises. I'm not going to spoil what they are, and again, because of the fact that the ground does make a very... loud grating sound. You probably won't be able to hear it, although I will boost up the audio just so that you can. But, you're in for a bit of a surprise if you go next to... number 7. Again, for those of you wondering what he is saying, and again, I do apologize that I couldn't really cut out the noise, but... Yeah, if you want to hear what number 7 is saying, it's basically something along the lines of, "Oh my god, it's her." I mean, again, it's very choked up and very hard to make out, but yeah, there is a certain... fuck, I forgot. I don't know what the word is, but anyway. Again, I didn't really have a lot of time to talk about it since I wanted to show off that little Easter egg, but... This puzzle is actually very, very annoying. Mostly on the normal and hard difficulties. Oh, Jesus Christ, on hard difficulty, this is a pain in the ass. I mean, on normal, it's okay, because you have, you know, the numbers to figure the puzzle out. Hard mode is a complete pain in the ass, and I think on easy mode, the crematorium key is pretty much just easy to grab. It's pretty much already unlocked for you, if I remember correctly. And again, since you can select your riddle difficulty at the beginning of the game, it does make it very easy for you to just, you know, pick up whatever you need to. But in any case, I mean, again, that's honestly why I do appreciate the difficulty curve that the Silent Hill games have. Select your action and puzzle difficulty at your leisure. But, yeah, puzzles are a pain in the ass, but and again, it is one of my negative points towards the hospital, but I mean, you know, the Otherworld version I do think is a much greater place, if only for the surreal aspects, which we will be getting to in quite a bit. Like here, for instance.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy 31st birthday.
Is this Leonard?
That's the murderer's name, not my name. I'm not your beloved Stanley either. He's underground now. His new name is Number 7. But don't worry about that now. It's time to celebrate your birthday.
You've got me mistaken for someone else. Today's not my...
I'm not mistaken. Today is your 24th birthday. And I have a present for you. Which do you prefer? To give pain or to receive it? You can have the one you hate the most. Happy birthday to you!
But you're wrong. It's not my birthday.
You do not know how tempted I was to paste in that clip of a little birthday gift I actually called someone earlier. I think only one other person is probably going to know what that even is, but yeah. Oh, this is actually, I think, a pretty clever bit of symbolism. Again, this is pretty much reflective of, I think, Alessa Gillespie's entrapment. And I guess, in a lot of ways, also Heather being wrapped in the situation that she can never seemingly escape. I suppose also Cheryl as well. Cheryl is actually the incarnation of Alessa that I think is probably screwed over the most. I mean, she had a decent childhood with Harry and Jodie for the few years that she was still alive. I don't know. Cheryl doesn't really get a lot of attention, and that makes me very sad. Well, I suppose Heather is technically Cheryl and Heather is technically Alessa. Whatever, regeneration is confusing. Again, and it's also in this area that you will see the... fuck, what are they called? The Slurpers? God, why am I forgetting these things? I'm not even technically forgetting them, I'm just sort of scatterbrained, which is kind of bad. I mean, it doesn't make my commentary very interesting, but it also means that I have a very bizarre way of approaching things. But, again, I think I might as well get into some history behind the Slurpers. In terms of symbolism, actually, and they actually have more than a few meanings. For instance, I think the fact that they're, constantly sniffing the ground was meant to be reflective of Claudia as she was, desperately trying to clutch at any semblance of her friend in Alessa, so... Again, and the fact that they seem very infantile in the way in which they are dressed, because again, as you can see, they seem wearing some, well, rather nappy-ish, or nappy, diaper, whatever's your poison, looking attire. The fact that they also have a very gimp sort of look to them also just, again, I think further goes to show the lengths in which they're willing to go in order to pursue Heather, which relates to Claudia mostly. That being said, though, again, but given their rather infantile look, that is also reflective of, infancy, really, which again, one of Silent Hill's big things is, again, pregnancy, which again, ties into Silent Hill 1. But by that same volition, however, I think it also ties into dependency, which again, child depends upon mother, that sort of thing, which, again, is rather interesting, and, symbolically speaking, I like the Slurpers as a concept. But again, as I brought up in the Hilltop Center, as enemies, they are incredibly annoying, mostly because of the fact that when they knock down Heather, it takes a while to get up, they drain your health, and honestly, they're just not fun to fight, is what I'm getting at here. And I don't mean to sound that negative on the Slurpers, because again, they're not that bad of an enemy. It's just something that starts to annoy you after a while, and you're not exactly going to go, oh my god, a Slurper, I'm too terrified to cross these hallways. It starts becoming a case of, ugh, I can't believe I have to face this enemy again. Again, I'm reiterating my points at the Hilltop Center, I realize that now, but it's just something that aggravates me. And honestly, symbolically, again, I did kind of give you the Cliff Notes version, mostly because of the fact that I'm so scatterbrained right now, but I think it does bear repeating that, you know, on a symbolic level, the Slurpers are a very interesting monster. It's just fighting them that I find very aggravating. And I mean, again, as I mentioned last part, if we're going to talk about lazy symbolism here, I think the nurses are probably the worst of it. I mean, unless of course you were going to include the puppet doctors there as well, there just wasn't any reason to use them. This refers to Leonard Wolf, and that's a character that I've actually been very interested in talking about, which I couldn't really do so before. But it does tie into more than a few things. Yes, the rumour is true. If you want to know the person who he stabbed, it's Stanley Coleman, which is something that you'll actually figure out if you read his last diary, where it's pretty much outright stated that Stanley ended up pissing off Leonard Wolf for his religious beliefs, which again, as you could probably tell from the phone call earlier, yeah, he's more than a little driven by Dahlia Gillespie's kill the non-believers philosophy of dealing with things. Anyway, as a result of this, because of Stanley's death, he was sent down as number 7. And, again, that's pretty much how he fulfilled his role. Leonard, on the other hand, had some rather nasty transformations, which, again, I am going to be admittedly spoiling this a little bit, but yeah, it does go into a little thing that I think actually Vincent will talk about a little bit later on, about the perception of people as monsters and how people can become monsters, which I actually think is really, interestingly enough, followed up in Silent Hill Downpour, actually, with the concept of the bogeyman. And again, I know a lot of people consider the bogeyman in Downpour to be pretty much just a budget pyramid head with the serial label filed off, but honestly, I love the way in which Downpour uses that concept so bloody well. But again, I think I'll probably save that if I ever get around to Silent Hill Downpour, which I am debating on doing actually, because I've been playing that again recently, and honestly, it's a lot better than I remember it. Like, I mean, again, it doesn't top the Team Silent games, obviously, but honestly, I had a lot more fun with Downpour than I did when it came out. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's strange, but Downpour I found surprisingly fun in my recent playthroughs. Kick! Oh. Yeah, goes to show how powerful the shotgun is. I'd say in terms of useful weaponry, you should probably best save your shotgun, but then again, if you're in a monster closet, as is the case in many rooms in the hospital, the shotgun is usually your best effort. And I suppose this does also highlight another problem with Silent Hill 3. Again, I mentioned this all the way back in part 1. But the fact that a lot of enemies are bullet sponges or bullet and hit sponges in this game is also a little bit troublesome. Again, it's nothing that you can't handle by either running away or by using some powerful weapons on it, but I don't know, in the case of Silent Hill 3, I think as a result of that, it kind of makes the mechanics a little bit bloated, because again, I mentioned earlier with the use of the beef jerky how it didn't really have a purpose, or any sort of use to really apply it to. I don't know, I think it is kind of limiting, because, you know, the way in which you're supposed to use the beef jerky is to distract the dogs and slurpers, I believe. But in the case of Silent Hill 3, the fact that you can tackle enemies pretty much the same way that you can in Silent Hill 1 and 2, and the fact that Team Silent didn't really seem to devise any sort of scenario to really allow the player to kind of go at it with a bit more of a methodical position, I don't know. I don't think it was really that well thought out, but even despite this, I still think Silent Hill 3 functions, you know, decently well as far as its combat goes. And my video editor is lagging. I do apologize if my dialogue is skipped over again. Not much I can do about it, but unless of course I find another way of recording this. And we have found something interesting here. A Book of Lost Memories. Not to be confused with a... I think it was like a Bible of Silent Hill, which kind of detailed the monster's creation. It's pretty much like a useful guide. I don't know if... I can't remember if it was like a physical book, if it was like a site or something, or... Again, it was like a development guide in regards to how Silent Hill's symbolism was created, which is how a lot of people got their info on the series. But again, we found this little altar, which is, I guess, belongs to Leonard Wolf, or at the very least is sort of a symbolic reflection of that. You know, his devotion to his faith, as the doctors and even Stanley was referring to earlier. But in any case, with the blood and a couple of other items, we shall get to our final boss arena. So, in that case, I'll take a drink of the Pepsi, and you enjoy the cutscene, kids. See you in a bit.
Heather?
Yeah? Leonard, where are you?
Thank you. Now I can finally leave here. Now Claudia's ridiculous dream is over. Well, I guess it's time to dispose of her. The salvation of all mankind. Ha! Why must we reward even the unbelievers?
What are you talking about?
About our plans, of course. It's true that God is merciful, but first, one must be chosen. Only we, who hearken to the voice of God, will be given the keys to paradise. Don't you think so, Heather?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and think whatever you want.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that I don't think the way you guys do. I don't want any part of that kind of paradise.
You're an unbeliever. You deceived me.
I didn't deceive you. We were both just wrong about each other. I thought you were a normal person.
So you tried to trick me so you can run off with my seal, eh? Heretic! You plan to destroy God!
I told you I wasn't trying to trick anyone. What is this seal thing anyway?
Don't play innocent. You can't fool me anymore. The seal is mine! I was appointed by God to be its guardian! The only thing you'll get from me is a gruesome death.
Leonard, is that you?
Death to all who turn their backs on God!
Is every person here a mental case? Well, I guess you're not a person anyway.
Heather, you and your delicious, delicious snark. Anyway, now it's time for a boss fight against Leonard Wolf, who was looking far more monstrous than we perhaps even intended. Again, I already brought that up earlier with the whole boogeyman thing with Silent Hill Downpour, but again, Vincent will have something very interesting to say about that. I think most Silent Hill fans know what I'm talking about, but I'll save that for later. Anyway, as far as the boss fight is concerned with Leonard Wolf, it's actually not as difficult as you might think. Again, pretty much just wait for him to surface, just try and avoid him trying to nip you when he's beneath the surface. He will try and attack you with swipes when he rises above ground, so keep on your guard. Best advice I can really give you for this fight is just keep on the move and basically just use any sort of weapons that can harm him. I mostly recommend the shotgun and the pistol, since, again, that can give you a lot of distance. Failing that, though, well, I don't know, really. I guess just kind of hit him and pray, really. I haven't really tried using melee weapons on him. Maybe that will make for a fun challenge if I can use the beam saber on him on one of my next playthroughs, because I am trying to unlock the bloody... fuck, what was the ending called? The possessed ending, actually, which is quite difficult, but again, I think I mentioned that earlier. I do think Leonard's design is actually pretty cool. Like, I mean, it's a very... Again, in a way, it's also kind of like... I don't know, like, I mean, it's demonic, but at the same time, it's kind of like a child's abstraction of what, you know, a demonic-looking man would possibly look like. I don't know, I mean, it's given a very Masahiro Ito look to it, but, I don't know, that's just kind of what I see. And I think something that might have been the intention, considering whose father it is. In regards to anything else, really, I don't think there's much else to really worry about. I suppose if I can say anything else on Leonard Wolf as a character, kind of wish we had, again, I already brought this up last part, but I kind of wish we had like a Silent Hill Shattered Memories 2 sort of scenario, like, I don't know, I guess maybe instead of going over the story of Silent Hill 3, it maybe went from the perspective of Claudia Wolf, maybe dealing with the sort of psychological abuse that most religious families have. Like, I mean, again, it might sound a little bit on the nose, but, you know, that sort of thing is quite real. I don't know, I think it could make for a pretty cool psychological horror game in its own right. Not to mention the fact that you'd be playing as a kid, I think would probably benefit the whole, oh, I can't fight back against the monsters thing far more than it did for Harry Mason and Shattered Memories, but, you know. Shattered Memories is another game I actually really want to talk about, but I have yet to, you know, find a copy of the Wii version. Again, I haven't actually seen that Nintendo Wii in ages. I think my sister might have it, although I'll probably have to ask around. I've been wanting to get the PS2 version of that game though, although that's very fucking expensive, so... yeah, probably not going to be getting that for like 500 years, what will probably cost like an arm and a leg, and the soul. I don't know. It might sound like I'm panning out for time here, but again, Leonard's boss fight is just pretty simplistic. And just kind of trips up. He can actually get some decent hits on you underwater though. Again, they don't hurt as much as the overhead swipes that he does when he rises above surface, but again, you should be pretty safe no matter what you do. So, on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on Silent Hill 3, well, we've pretty much passed the halfway point of the game, so I'll see you next time. Catch you later.